Hey everyone, and welcome to Airtime Assault number 3. I am Crystal from Jabberjays.net here with Carla in Germany.
Hi everybody.
And we're also joined by Vivian, also in Germany. And she can't get her camera working, so we're just going to be hearing her audio. And then we're joined by Tiffany from welcome to district12.com.
Hello.
So we had a couple other people that are supposed to be on, but they're having trouble joining the Hangout. So if they pop in later on, then we'll introduce them then. But so basically, just to explain, for this Airtime Assault, it's our Through the Pages finale. For the past year, we've been doing like a chapter by chapter recap of each of the chapters in Mockingjay and discussing where we think there's going to be book and movie differences. So, and chapter 13 is actually a really good point where we think that the movies are going to split. So basically we're going to discuss chapter 13 and then we're going to talk about the possible split between Mockingjay 1 and 2. So we hope you guys have your books ready because we're going to be discussing the chapter, which is a very important chapter. I have my my original hardcover of Mockingjay with me. I don't know what copies do you guys have?
I have my ebook.
Is that what it looks like inside, Tiffany?
Yeah.
I have my hardcover.
Okay. I don't think I've ever looked at that. Okay. That's cool.
Wait.
Okay, so
You've never looked at this?
well, the inside, like I have the dust jacket on.
Oh, I see. I can't read.
There's a Mockingjay inside. Okay. So I mean, just to start off our discussion, so chapter 12 it ends right when Peeta chokes Katniss.
Yeah.
So that's actually a point that a lot of people think that the movie could possibly end on, but some of us think differently, that that's too much of a cliffhanger, right? And chapter 13 continues that, and so after that, she's actually in the infirmary recovering, right? Because what he does to her is actually so severe, and it's kind of interesting that we actually got a glimpse of Peeta during that scene in TV spot choice, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of heart-wrenching.
Exactly what's
Because
going to
we
happen.
get to see bruised and battered face, and we know what's just about to happen. So the fact that they gave us a glimpse of that is just kind of scary.
And then they trick the audience into thinking that she's hugging Peeta because she's hugging someone with blonde hair. But we all know that's not it. You look, it's not him.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on in those TV spots, and so it's just, I don't know. I'm pretty sure all of us just looked at our stock of Kleenex and thought, okay, I'm going to have to take that with me.
Yeah.
All right, so chapter 13 starts off, like, this is when she first introduces the term hijacking, right, which is a, they don't have, is it Hamish or is it Plutarch that talks about it? It's, I think it's Hamish, right, or is it Plutarch? They don't know too much about hijacking. It's just something that's like rumored, some kind of rumored form of torture, right?
Both of them are there. And yeah, and Beatty. Like all three of them go talk to her.
It's just kind of sad because, like, I mean, that was one of the frustrating parts of Mockingjay for me, is that there's so many times where Katniss has to just lie there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Medicated. And she just has to wait for information. It's so frustrating for her.
And she can't even talk. Like,
Right. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
she can't talk at all.
I don't know. I mean, I hope that this scene they include it because I guess they have to explain what the hijacking is at some point. So, like some kind of exposition has to be there. But I hope they don't make it really heavy. I don't know, because you know, having a scene of Hamish and Plutarch going, so this is what a hijacking is. It's kind of maybe a bit too heavy.
Sorry. I mean, I reread the chapter, but I have to keep looking.
That's the good thing about having it in an ebook. I can just switch Switch on my computer, it doesn't matter.
Do you guys see two Carlas? I mean, I see Carla where Vivian is.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, I'm seeing that.
What?
Oh wait, no,
It's,
now I
yeah,
see
it's
it.
showing your desktop.
Oh!
Really?
That's
Trying
cool.
to find a solution. It.
Okay, so I actually wanted to talk about one part for Prim because actually on the second page of chapter 13, Prim actually puts her foot down, right? And she kind of just like, she kind of flusters Plutarch. She says, "No, if you force me to leave, I'll go directly to surgery and tell my mother everything that's happened. And I warn you, she doesn't think much of a game maker calling the shots on Katniss's life, especially when you've taken such poor care of her." Like, I really hope that that's in the movie because I would really like to see Willow Shields, like, just be like,
Yeah.
laying down the law with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, right?
I mean, how awesome would that be? Like, imagine just Willow telling that story to everybody later, like in a few years from now. Like, oh, I had a scene where I had to, read the riot act to Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's awesome.
And possibly also Woody Harrelson, right? So.
No, but I think I would like to see that. Even like I'm not really sure how this scene is going to be in the movie because, like I said, I don't think they will do like a lot of exposition. But I would like to see more of Prim because what we were saying just a few minutes ago in the podcast is that we have seen so little of Prim. So any Prim we get is good Prim, and we just have to see more sides of her so that later on, the really emotional parts are actually that striking.
Yeah, and actually for this scene, I feel like they set up like her taking charge in Catching Fire. You know, when they bring Gail in after the whipping, and like her mom is like her hand shaking and she can't do the morphling, and she just like, here, I'll do it, and she takes care of it instead of her mom. So I feel like they've properly set it up where she can do that, and people won't be like, well, why is she doing that, right? I mean, who is she to say that kind of stuff to him? But
Right.
Okay, what comes next?
Then they just explain.
Okay, so
the whole
they're gonna
hijacking thing.
they explain to her that they feel like the hijacking has to do with the tracker jacker venom. So I don't know. Do you think they'll flash back to the original Hunger Games and what she saw, or do you think she'll just recall it and talk about it and talk about what it was like? Because like I think BT tells her that Katniss is one of the few people, or in fact the only person that can tell them what it's like to have been stung by tracker jacker venom. So.
Mhm.
They're gonna have to remind the audience it was like there was a whole movie between the last
Yeah.
mention of Tracker Jackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
mean,
for people for people who are just purely movie fans, like they might not even remember like Glimmer and how like the hive fell on her and killed her and things like that. So
But do you think they're going to flashback?
I don't know. I can't decide. I feel like that would be a little too jarring maybe
Yeah.
of a transition. I don't know, especially since it's two different styles. One is Gary Ross and one is Francis Lawrence. So.
Yeah. I find it funny that they called hijacking an old English word. Like, let's remind people that they don't.
Right.
we're like olden times to them.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. You're right.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's so funny. I think it's funny now because when they were explaining the whole Panem thing, I don't remember which book it is. When they explain that it comes from Latin and Rome and whatever, they do say like in the past, and I'm like, yeah, sure, it's Rome. It's really old. Now we're the past, so.
So there's actually another part where Prim is actually still going, like still trying to like press them on what they're going to do. She says, "Well, you're going to try, aren't you?" Prim persists. "You're not going to just lock him up in some padded room and leave him to suffer." So I mean, that's like the potential doctor in Prim talking, right? So it's
Right.
really nice to see
That's
that
important.
happening.
And I like the idea because later on in the chapter, then we see that they bring in Delhi to
Yeah, yeah.
deal with PETA. I don't know. They mention in the book at parts that Prim has been helping PETA with the recovery attempts. So I would like to actually see that, in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really, really don't think. I think Delhi is going the way of Madge Undersea.
Yeah, of course. She's not going to be in the movie. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably going to be Prim. I would be shocked if it wasn't Prim taking Delhi's place. I mean, that makes the most sense. Oh, and Prim continues to kick ass. I mean, Plutarch says, "I personally feel optimistic that he'll make a full recovery," and she says, "Do you?"
Yeah.
What do you think, Hamish?
It's so cool the way they say it. It's like, "Do you?" asks Prim caustically, and I'm like, I had never thought of Prim being caustic ever before in my life. So it's really awesome that she's doing it now, and against
It's
Plutarch.
really cool seeing that side of her come out, very defensive and protective, right? Which is funny because it's all started off because she needed protecting. Katniss had to protect her, and now she's the one protecting Katniss, who's just lying there helplessly, and it's like, she's come a long way.
Yeah. She's gonna go a long way too, in different pieces. Sorry.
Oh no!
Kira's been rubbing off on me. I'm sorry, it's not my fault.
Oh no!
So I think one thing that actually works really well, like considering how Willow actually looks, like I saw like a clip from the Hunger Games, I think it was from the Reaping, not too long ago, and I was like, wow, she just looks so small. She's just such a little girl, right? And now she looks so grown up, and it's like people were saying, I saw a couple of people commenting that maybe she looks a little too old, but I mean in the book. Katniss mentions that Prim is almost as tall as her the following year. So, I mean, Prim goes through a real growth spurt. So I think, I mean, book-wise, it totally works for her to look the way that she does now, look so much older. And I mean, we need her to look older, right? Because we have to believe that she can talk this way to adults and be a nurse in the field and be training as a doctor, because otherwise why would you, I mean, you would be like, why would a 14-year-old be in a hospital as a doctor, right?
I wondered that too. I'm like, what are you even thinking? But I guess for them, they need as many doctors as they can get.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Gale visits Katniss when she's recovering in the hospital. He doesn't say anything to her. He just slips in. And he runs his fingers. He doesn't speak, just runs his fingers over the bruises on my cheek with a touch as light as moth wings, plants a kiss between my eyes, and disappears. I feel like that's something that they can put into the movie. Because, I mean, we were talking on the podcast that we just did that it seems like they might be cutting Gale a certain way just to provide contrast and show the opposing sides between Gale and PETA. I mean, this would give people a glimpse into the softer side of Gale and understand that, like he doesn't just have like I want to kill everybody kind of motives, he loves Katniss, right? So
yeah, actually, I have my own little theory about that scene. Maybe I'll mention it later on, because I think that's going to be a big part of where the split is going to be. I've been thinking about this for way too long, but I think that little bit is going to have something to do with the moment, like the actual split point. But yeah, when we get to the end, then I'll mention my theories, I guess.
okay, Carla, I'm gonna try and invite Elise again. So if you can keep the discussion going, I think Buttercup comes next.
I am looking for it.
Because they already had in previous chapters, they did the crazy cat thing.
Mm.
And then he gets a food allowance or something.
Oh yeah, Buttercup has been issued a daily food allowance of and a pan of sand. That's interesting. I
Oh,
mean,
how
I
nice.
I really do wonder if they're going to keep like all the Buttercup details because we know Crazy Cat is in there, but like, are they actually going to focus that much on Buttercup? I know
I
he's
know, like the pan of sand, are they gonna keep changing it out? Because you can't just leave the same kitty litter there all the time.
yeah, of course. It's so funny. I like that bit because it says after that line it says as Prim tucks me into bed, he hugs up on my pillow, and the visual of Prim tucking Katniss into bed. It's such a drastic change from what we've seen at the beginning of the series,
Oh yeah,
where
the
Katniss
very
was the one.
beginning of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. The first thing we see in the movie of the two of them is Prim having a nightmare and Katniss walking up and hugging her and telling her that everything will be okay. And now it's Prim tucking her into bed, and it's so. I mean, on the one hand, it's a sign of how much Prim has grown, and on the other hand, it's a sign of how fragile Katniss is. So it's. I hope they keep that in because it's such an interesting visual. And then Prim just keeps on telling her that Peter will be fine, and that Peter just got there, so that maybe in the future with some time they'll be able to get him back and stuff. So it's it's a hope spot, I think, just of her trying to reassure Katniss again.
Okay, so sorry, Carla, we've been joined by Molly from penandpropaganda.com. Hi, Molly.
Hey guys.
Hi, Molly.
So glad to have you. So we're in the middle of discussing the chapter. We just got through the part where Buttercup is given like a his own ration of food. Actually, is Buttercup you think Buttercup is a male or a female? Does
It's a
she
he.
refer to him as a
I think it's a male.
I'm
He's a
getting a
male?
lot of
As Prim
sound.
tucks
Hang on,
me
you
into
guys.
bed, he hops up on my pillow.
It's a male because in German it's translated to the male form of cat.
Yeah. He's
There we go.
definitely a man.
Okay. I had to get rid of some background sound. Hi. There we go.
Okay, so Katniss recovers and she goes down and she finds Gale and BT in special weaponry and they're working on something very
Dun, dun,
it has
dun.
to do with a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, we probably shouldn't spoil anything, but I mean, he's working on. This is. I mean, it's funny because I was just mentioning how they wanted to show the softer side of Gale, and now they're going to show. Now we've got the most ruthless part of Gale coming out, right? But I mean, she goes down to special weaponry and she finds that Gale and BT are working on special weapons based off of Gale's snares, right? Which is creepy. But I mean, it's part of one of the more important themes and statements that I think Suzanne Collins makes about war. It's a good topic for discussion for people to have on, necessities and, where the gray areas are and lines that have to be drawn and I mean, there's so many different ways that you can look at it. So, I mean, what do you guys think?
Honestly, actually, I think it's a really interesting moment in the book for me, because not just because of Gale and his desire to destroy the capital completely, but because it also gives me a lot of insight to District 13 in a sense, because these people from 12. Vivian, I can see you.
Oh, we should see Vivian.
There's a lot of feedback though.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback.
Hello. Yeah, I used the tweet.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, because now I'm using my mobile.
Oh, that's why we have feedback, I guess.
So, I need to turn my PC off so I can use my mobile. Yeah, that's me. Great, it's working. I don't know what my PC for problem says. It should go to the Hunger Games. It's stupid. So.
That's the best punishment ever.
There. This is the little badass.
Yeah.
Stupid.
So as I was saying, I think it gives a lot of insight into the mindset of District 13 military too, because these people from 12, they're just just gotten there. They haven't been there that long, and they've been suffering for so long. And you would think that the military leaders would be very, I don't know, very remiss to actually take any advice from random people.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
girls.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to put my thoughts together too, so it helps. It's just I think it's interesting that they're willing to take advice, like strategy advice, from someone like Gale, who's just
Yeah.
this random dude from 12, just a kid to begin with, never been on a battlefield before, but his snares are actually so well put together that they actually value his opinion on that and want to use it in the actual battle. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it never occurred to me how weird it was that like this random kid from District 12, he worked in the mines, is now like
Yeah.
advising Beatty, who's a
Right.
genius,
Right.
on like war machines basically. Like that's crazy.
So Katniss says something really interesting. She says, this seems to be crossing some kind of line. So anything goes. I guess there isn't a rule book for what might be acceptable to do to another human being. And I feel like that is like movie material. That can be something that'll translate well to screen. So I feel like they'll put that in there, that particular line.
And Gale's line
and right
after
after that,
that.
Gale
Yeah,
was
Gale's
like,
line after is good.
yeah. Okay, somebody else can read it. I've been reading a lot, so.
Beatty
I
and
have it. Do you have it?
I have it.
Good.
Beatty and I have been following the same rule book President Snow used when he hijacked PETA.
It's like,
Oh, ouch.
low blow.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they wanted to make Gale sound like a bad guy, here, have this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Katniss is cruel but to the point, so even she understands that. So.
But it's very, it just stands out because Katniss says she understands, but at the same time we're like, but dude, you can't just go down to his level. So that's the point where you start thinking, maybe this isn't going to go well.
Okay, so this is where they bring in Deli, and we were saying earlier, Molly and Vivian, that we definitely don't think that Deli is going to make it.
No, I was thinking of that too, and I was just wondering if they would add, and you guys probably discussed this already, add a different character, use somebody who's already from the cast to kind of replicate that person. I was trying to think of who that would be.
Prim.
Prim.
Yeah.
But she's so connected to Katniss, and the whole point was try and keep it as far away from Katniss as possible, or the capital. So that would be a great role for her to take on. That would be really interesting if she did that.
I guess the one thing that I mean, I don't know who else it could be. I feel like if they just introduced somebody new, it wouldn't have like the same.
I don't think they will. Yeah.
No, I don't think they will either.
That would be really, really interesting. Kind of cool if that's Prim's responsibility, I guess.
Yeah.
In this, that would be interesting.
And it just gives her more time in the spotlight. So
Right.
any time we get with Prim is good.
Definitely.
Although I mean, I do think it's possible. It's possible. I mean, anything's possible, right, with the movie. So.
Right.
Because I don't know, Deli and PETA apparently have a history. It's not just that she's from District 12. Her parents were shoemakers. So she says, "Oh yes, we played together from when we were little. I used to tell people he was my brother." Which is kind of cute.
That'd be interesting.
They would draw some kind of drawing thing that they drew together, and she was admired PETA's drawings and stuff. Yeah.
But I really like this scene, not so much because of the PETA backstory, but more because she fangirls so hard over Katniss. It's hilarious.
She does, that's funny.
Katniss is so great. I'm like, really?
But that's also such an easy thing to lose. You know, you could just cut that out. You don't have to explain her.
Right.
She's done.
Right, exactly.
You know, make it. Yeah, gets
That's
things
funny, you
done
know, because
faster.
I can actually imagine them casting a deli, having her shoot it, and then she gets all excited, and then they cut it completely. She's like, "Oh, where's my scenes? I swear, I was in Hunger Games."
Woodley and Spider-Man kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting because that's such a cool scene. I was just rereading the chapter, and it is a cool scene that she goes from Gale saying something really kind of horrifying. Poor Gale, I think, you know, he kind of got thrown under the bus in that last trailer a little bit, but
Yeah.
you guys probably talked about that already. But she goes from like the horrifying thing with Gale, and then, you know, transitions to PETA. It seems like they would, if they're keeping all of that in, that would be interesting. And that what a cool scene it would be to have them try something on PETA. You know, it seems like they would keep that in some form, I guess.
It's also kind of cool because then you go from Gale, who's pretty much the most cynical person at this point, talking to Katniss about this war thing. He's so cynical about it. And then you have Deli, who's like the other side of the spectrum.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, she's just cute. I love Deli.
She would be like a little bit of levity in the thing,
Yeah.
so it's like, who's going to bring that levity to the moment?
Yeah.
It's like almost, but they wouldn't use Effie, so I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Oh God! Now I totally started thinking of Effie going to visit PETA and just crying. Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for the fields. Thank you for the fields, Carter.
Yeah. So
Great.
always
There were
good to be of service.
not enough Peter fields this week.
Yeah. No, it was not enough. It's never enough PETA feels.
Not enough. It's not. Oh my God! I'm so excited. You have me on video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Deli goes to talk to PETA. They're talking about, she's telling him how wonderful District 13 is, that there's always lots of food, school is more interesting, they always have clean clothes. And then PETA says, why hasn't my family come to see me?
Oh.
We all hate Mrs. Millark, right? But,
Right.
I mean, Mr. Millark, he was a cool guy, right? He gave Katniss cookies, even though she didn't eat them. Okay, the cookies drive me crazy, because when I first read the Hunger Games, I was like, wow, she like doesn't get to eat anything, like she doesn't get any kind of treats, right? And then he gives her a bag of cookies, and then she throws them out the window, and I was just like, wow, Katniss is hardcore.
Why would you
It's
throw away the
hardcore.
cookies?
Yeah, seriously.
Hopefully somebody in
I would've
District 12
eaten
went and
cookies.
picked up his cookies and ate it and made good
Oh God, yes.
Totally eating those cookies.
So Deli is trying to get him to think back to 12. She's saying, we'll need to make a new life here. I'm sure they could use a good baker. And then PETA says, there was a fire. And then it goes all downhill from there, and he starts freaking out. Right? And I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this part because he just starts raging on Katniss, right?
It's just this scene is going to be the one that's really going to sell it for us. Like I think
Right.
hijack thing, because it's going to be so hard to see Josh act that way, and I can't wait to see it. Like because she keeps in the narration she keeps saying that like the clouds seem to clear off his face and stuff like that, and I just really want to see that in Josh. So. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't. My son really wants to get on in discussion.
Maybe
I
there's
mean,
something important to say.
been talking over the last year about whether they're actually gonna take us out of Katniss's perspective and go to the Capitol and show Peeta and Joanna being tortured. And I don't think they're gonna do that. I think we're primarily gonna be seeing Peeta only through what Katniss sees, which is through the broadcasts. What do you guys think about that?
Well, you saw that last couple articles, right, about Francis Lawrence is being really, really cagey about it, and he's saying we shot more than we used, and I know he's trying to not tell us anything, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. Like it doesn't. It seems like those Capitol propaganda broadcasts might be the only part of it, unless they use that minister as, like, people have sort of suspected that the new guy, is maybe part of that process, that torture thing. I don't know. There's speculation.
Oh, you mean Antony?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Blanking on his name.
Robert never looks the part.
Robert Knepper.
He definitely looks evil.
So people are speculating, like, maybe he's that guy, and they show, they could show him going into the room, or they could show, some ominous stuff, maybe not specific, but it would be.
I mean, I feel like they could always use any kind of scenes they might have shot of Peeta and Joanna as flashbacks in part 2. I mean, so even if they don't use it, they can use it in part 2, and they might, right? Because they haven't cut part 2 still.
Right. Totally.
I don't know. I mean, about it, I think we won't see anything happening to Peeta until Katniss knows about it. But after she knows, like after the second interview when they actually beat him in live TV, I think after that we might actually see a bit of him being mistreated. No, I mean not necessarily see the beating because that might push it too far, but just see him maybe like a glimpse of a syringe filled with some green liquid, whatever, something like that. Like suggestive.
I think we'll see it after the pirate transmission I told before in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when he's wearing his black clothes and when they address District 13 directly.
Yeah.
Actually, at this point, we will see the torturing of Peter.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
So to explain to Molly and Tiffany, we just did a Jabbercast, and Vivian brought up a good point because we were talking about, that part in Most Anticipated when Peeta's crying.
Oh,
He's
yes.
wearing black. He's wearing black, right?
Yeah.
So we were saying like what we think that means, and Vivian said that maybe it's after because President Snow is talking to Katniss, right? When he says it's the things we love most that destroy us. So she was saying that maybe right after he says that, he shows Peeta and he shows what they've done to him, and it's just to like mess with her.
Just for Katniss, not something that's transmitted nationwide.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I've never thought of that, but that's totally possible.
Yeah.
We've discussed it for.
Oops, froze.
Oh.
They could also.
Tiffany was saying that she's having an.
No.
Yeah. We'll just wait for her to come back and she can finish her thought.
Am I back?
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I have like wonky internet right now. We've discussed that they could do flashbacks once they explain what hijacking is.
Right.
So that's another option that it's hidden until he comes back, and then they can show what they did. That's another option.
God, that would be really creepy. Like, Petey talking about the effects of Tracker Jack and Venom, and then whoosh, flashing back to being injected and tortured. And wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna be crazy. I mean, I really do hope that they include some of those scenes because I think it would be kind of a wasted opportunity if they didn't, honestly.
So I do hope that they actually do have someone in the room, because I think it says a lot that, like, as Deli starts to sense, like after Plutarch says get her out of there, and she starts backing away towards the door, because then it's clear that Pete is dangerous, right?
Right.
And then he starts yelling, right? He starts yelling,
She's a mutt.
don't trust her, Deli. I did, and she tried to kill me. She killed my friends, my family. Don't even go near her. She's a mutt. A mutt. She's a stinking mutt. So it's like, I mean, we know how Peter feels because he's seen mutts himself, right? Twice. He's seen um what
The dog ones.
the wolves
Yeah.
the wolves with the tribute faces and the monkeys. So he knows
And the
firsthand.
Jabberjays, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So he knows
saw
what
them
a
firsthand.
terrible hermit is and what he's saying, right? And so
That's gonna be so hard to watch. Oh god.
is Vivian whistling?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just watching the new District 6 video.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what is that? I can hear the Mockingjay call.
Yeah, I'm always whistling and singing. Yeah, that's me. Right.
Okay, so after they usher Katniss out, she says, she
Yeah,
thinks Prim was wrong. Peeta is irretrievable. And she says, I can't stay here anymore. If you want me to be the Mockingjay, you have to send me away. And I feel like, I think a lot of us feel that this is a really good way to end the movie without making it too cliffhangery, because, I mean, so my in-laws watched Catching Fire last month for the first time, and she texted me right after. She was like, that was really good, but is there a third one?
That's adorable.
Because it's such a cliffhanger, right? But I feel like this is still a cliffhanger, but it's a little bit more gentle.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's got some closure. Like, she's going somewhere else. So, because, I mean, the last time was just kind of like,
There is no district to
Right,
approve.
right.
I mean, that's evil.
I mean, come on. We read Catching Fire, and when we got to the end, we were like, what? I mean, that's how my daughter reacted when she read Catching Fire. She comes running to me with the book. She's like, what? What does he mean?
Oh, that is a good one.
I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking about the split for a couple of weeks since I read this chapter. And I do think that Send Me to 2 is a good point to split it and then just start the next book into the next movie, sorry, into. But at the same time, I'm not sure because I don't think it's a good idea to have the scene with Peeta in this movie necessarily because I think we've already seen him at his worst when he tries to choke Katniss. So having two of the same is a bit redundant, I think. I mean, I think it's the hijacking explanation might be a good way to start the next movie, is what I was thinking. So in general, I when I read this chapter, I kept thinking that maybe what they're going to do is not finish at the choking per se, like just give it a little bit more, like they did in Catching Fire. Like it doesn't just finish at the explosion; it finishes later in the hovercraft. So there's a bit of a wind down in a sense. So when I was thinking about it, I thought maybe a good way to finish it would be to just Katniss, he chokes her. Then after she's in the infirmary, they kind of throw out the word hijacked for the first time, and it makes people think, but not necessarily explaining it in full. And then going into the scene where, like, for example, Gale walks into her room and kisses her at that point, and have her, like, I don't know, maybe have her like turn around or away from him or something and show her crying. Something like that, just to show that even when Gale is trying to, comfort her, she's just not, until Peeta is okay, she's just not going to be alright. And then just end. So it wouldn't be a long scene, and you would still feel like the effect of the choking, but it wouldn't go into the belly scene in a sense. And then you can start off the next movie with the explanation and her saying, "Okay, then send me to 2."
That would be pretty mean. I mean, I think people would be like, what? What's wrong with him? And then spend like a year wondering what's wrong with PETA.
I know, that's interesting. I wonder if they won't, because of that, if they won't leave it without the explanation. You know?
Yeah, maybe they could include the explanation in this one, I guess. But I was also thinking that it could parallel the end of Catching Fire a bit, because
Right.
again, you have Guinness and trying to, be like, hey, you're okay, your family's okay, and it's not okay because 12 is gone, and in this case it wouldn't be okay because Katniss doesn't feel that she can get PETA back, in a way. So I thought of maybe that, but it could also be just send me to 2. I think it would be a smart point too.
All right,
It'd be
so
cool to have her say, send me to 2, and then you have an after credit scene of her meeting Gwendolyn Christie.
I know!
So I have a
See
thought.
what she looks like, like now, Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah.
I really want to see what she looks like.
So so there's this part in, I'm going to read it. So after it happens with PETA, he chokes her, and then Prim talks to her, and she's saying, I think he might get a little bit better, but I don't think he'll ever be the same. And Plutarch and Haymitch are talking to her. And then, so trying to cheer her up a little bit, and then she wakes up from like a drug-induced sleep. And then she doesn't feel like crying anymore. In fact, she can only manage to hold on to one simple thought, an image of Snow's face accompanied by the whisper in my head, I will kill you. Like, what if they did that as the end, and instead of a whisper in her head, she just sets her face again, determined, I'm going to kill you, or something, I will kill you, Snow. Like, I mean, that was my, like, sort of, that would be a huge cliffhanger again, but it would sort of handle all of that and then set her on a course for, becoming the Mockingjay is kind of what Francis Lawrence keeps saying. Like, the first one's a propaganda film, and then the second one's like a war movie. So, I don't know. One thought.
That's actually a good point. I mean, yeah, I can see that happening.
I mean, there's just so many ways they could do it.
They could do it with him just turning around, too. Like, he just turns with that look when he turns around and he's all battered. I was like, well, maybe they'll end it there. That'd be weird, but maybe they would.
So I found it funny that that Total Film interview came out today about Francis, and they were asking him about the split again. And he didn't. And I just find it amusing that I think a lot of people are going to be asking about the split, but he's not going to.
Oh no.
He will not.
You're just asking your questions, people.
No. Totally.
He's good at just saying the same stuff over and over and saying nothing.
Right.
Probably a politician.
Right.
I can just see. I can see it being like his baby. He's got to protect it, right?
It's good too. They're doing such a good job. I'm so glad that we're not getting spoiled too much. Like, it's so nice because really, we know everything there is to know about the books. Like, obviously, we've all read them 50 times. So it's nice to actually feel like we're going to be a little bit surprised by the ending.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked when we got that shot of PETA in the infirmary.
Yes.
In Choice. But I really didn't think that we would get any footage from the second half of the movie. So I mean, I guess it's innocuous enough that people who don't know won't realize it. Like, people who haven't read the books, but for us, immediately it's like, ah!
And they're just going, what happened? If you haven't read the books, you're saying, oh, what happened?
But it's interesting, too, that these are TV spots, so they're probably not going to be shown in theaters, right? So anybody who doesn't watch a lot of TV and yet goes to movies, they're just going to see the trailers, and then they'll be surprised, right? Because they're not going to have seen any of that kind of stuff, so.
I mean,
and it happens so
you have
fast,
people,
too.
Yeah.
Right.
On the other hand, you have people like, say, my mom. She has no idea. She hasn't seen any of the movies. So if I'm sitting by her and that thing comes up on TV, I'll be like, no, and she will have no idea. What it's kind of cute in a way.
All right, so I mean, we get to the end of the chapter, so I mean, yeah, I mean, we should probably just wrap up our discussion, but I don't know. What do you think is going to be like? I mean, we've already seen Peeta crying, we've seen Katniss crying, but I mean, yelling about Katniss stuff, I just feel like that is going to be even worse than seeing him cry on TV for some reason. Just because we'll be able to see finally, like, visually and audio, like, wise, just listen and see him just be so completely changed, right? Because in the first two movies, he's been all about protecting Peeta or protecting Katniss. So, I mean, it's one thing to read it, but it's another thing to see it. So, I don't know. I mean, what for you guys is going to be the most gut-wrenching thing to watch?
That tear already was.
Yeah,
That tear. Yeah, I don't know. Just seeing I wasn't this much of a Peeta person until I saw the movie. Actually, the first movie, I loved the books, but until I saw Josh as Peeta, he kind of broke my heart. I mean, totally broke my heart as Peeta in the first movie. And so, just to see how he is going to do this, and I think he's going to nail it. I hope he does. The change from this, when he's sitting there in the first interview to when he's got a tear go. I just keep looking at that, and just even the little mouth movements he makes are really kind of in little nuances with his face. It's like it's totally heartbreaking already. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's gonna.
And I mean, we even see a progression of Peeta right through the movies. I mean, in the first one, we see him saying that he doesn't want to kill anybody. He doesn't want to become a part of the games. Right. And then in Catching Fire, we see him actually kill somebody. Right. And then we're going to see even more that he's transitioned. He's become so much different from where he started, the sweet boy next door kind of type. So,
right.
I mean, we not only see how they destroyed Katniss, we see how they destroyed Peeta. So.
Right. And the thing with Peeta is that the switch is so abrupt too in Mockingjay, at least, because even when we're seeing him in the propose, he's still, I mean, at least on our side, we know that he's still doing it for her, because he's in love with her and he wants to protect her. And then all of a sudden, he's choking her, and then we all die. But that's, I can't imagine how that is going to play out in the theater, because I can imagine just people wailing like crazy because it's going to be so painful. God.
The whole Peeta issue is too hurtful.
Yeah. Vivian, are you already crying?
Yeah, it's too much feels. Yeah, yesterday, all the footage from Peeta, 2 days ago, and yesterday, the Age of Ultron teaser trailer. I'm also a Marvel fan, and it was too much for me this week. I'm hard. Yeah. Right. Oh no, I think it's going to be horrible to see him. Yeah. I wonder where they will break. Mm-hmm. I hope they won't do such a big cliffhanger. I'm really scared.
I wonder what they're going to ask Francis Lawrence after this movie's out. Like, are they going to ask about the epilogue or what? Because, right now everybody asks about the split.
Right.
And, once that is over, what are they going to move on to?
That's a good question. They would ask about the epilogue too.
Yeah.
Because we don't know about that either. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't know if they're gonna do that.
Did they say it was shot though? I feel like somebody said.
Yeah, I think they did. I think Lily Jacobson said something, right?
Yeah, I think she confirmed it was, and that we're gonna die
or something.
She replied to somebody's tweet, I think.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? Or
Yeah, you know what? Elise was trying to get on from Hannah and Propaganda, but she said she wanted to say that if you guys haven't talked about this, she thought that since we hadn't seen the Tracker Jacker or Venom effects from Francis, only from Gary's direction, that they'll probably have to show that Peeta's being affected by it in some way in Catching Fire. So I thought that was a good point. Anyway, thanks, Elise.
I mean, it would be a good thing to see Francis Lawrence's take on it. I don't know if he will, though, precisely because Gary Ross already did it.
Right.
I don't think he would want to, like, overshadow what Gary did, maybe, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, Francis has been pretty adamant about not taking away from what Gary did and just, like, contributing more. So if he does it, it would be very similar.
Yeah, probably.
There's my mobile.
somebody actually asked us a question. They said, "Do you believe that Gwendolyn Christie will be in part 1?"
Oh God, I hope.
No, they would.
One can only hope, but I don't think so.
She would have been in the promotion, I'm sure. I mean, they would know.
Yeah.
We would know if Game of Thrones, and she's kind of a bigger star than some of our rebels right now. So we would definitely know about it, I'm sure.
Well, plus she was at Comic-Con, but she didn't take part in any of the Hunger Games stuff. So
Yeah, she was for the Game of Thrones. She was in Game of Thrones.
yeah.
And I mean, I guess we already kind of know that the split is going to be before District 2, though, because Liam said it in an interview that he thought District 2 was in part 2. So
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
Pretty much a certainty. But I really, really want to see her.
I know.
It's kind of terrifying to imagine Gwendolyn Christie or being in the Hunger Games with Gwendolyn Christie. Because I mean, she's a former victor, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, if you can just imagine, like, being like, especially if you're like a younger tribute and you go to your Hunger Games, you're looking at her like, oh my God, I'm so dead. Right?
Hide.
But I do hope they have her like in Comic-Con next year. If I can be there, I could just like ask her to take a picture with me, and I would come up to like her waist or something because I'm really short and she's really tall, and that would be the best picture ever. So please, whoever markets the Comic-Con thing, please invite Gwendolyn Christie.
All right, so why don't we wrap up? We want to thank everyone who tuned in. We actually did have viewers, so
everybody!
that were watching enjoyed our little discussion for Chapter 13, and I guess we'll see how accurate all of us were when we see the movie in, 4 weeks?
Less than a month!
Oh my God!
Less than a month. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 4 weeks.
I can see it 1 day earlier. Ha!
Yeah.
Jimmy for the win.
High five, Vivian.
High five.
Totally.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.